Goodest Morrow fans, followers, fictional characters. I today would like to talk about what is a narcissist, because I'm hearing a lot of people like using it as a term a lot of it's like the new see you next Tuesday or the new a hole or D head, you could say. And you know, I have a little bugbear with it because it's really just a word like the rest, but you know, overusing a word that is like has a specific meaning to talk about abuse, domestic violence, is kind of belittling the issue. Like, a lot of the time I'll see it describing coercive control or other more kind of, yeah, just as equally serious kind of patterns of behavior. And I guess the reason why it could become problematic is that, you know, if someone's like, oh, my ex is a narcissist, or oh, my ex says I'm a narcissist, like, what does that mean? What does that actually look like? What are you really saying? Because everyone has a different kind of meaning of that. So what I'm gonna do, clean face, hair a mess, is just start with my, so I've showered, dressed, and I am just going to use some of my ointments. This is a clarifying face oil, and then I've got a organic rose face cream. Yeah. So, and then I'm actually going to put the rollers in and see how we go. Where does your neck end? All the way down here, okay? So, they say you can tell a woman's age by looking at her neck, décolletage, and hands. So, slip, slop, slap on that. When you're putting on your creams, you go up and down, apparently. Apparently the wrinkles are caused by dirt and like pollution and things like getting in your folds, and you're not like getting them out enough. So yeah, heard it here first. Okay. Now, I would hate to submit to the patriarchy, but hello. I love the line from Ginny and Georgia on Netflix, the series about, you know, she's like, save yourself, honey. I was raised in the 90s. And I hardcore relate to that. Like, little girls were wanting Playboy tattoos and the Playboy necklace. Like, you know, Britney Spears toxic. Come on, like, that was a bit later. But anyway, you get the point, okay? Save yourself, kids. It's too late for me. I've fully been indoctrinated. So I guess I have a recent-ish personal story to share, to highlight the severity of overusing the word narcissist. Okay, so you know, went on a date red flag instantly. Mentions the ex, and says something along the lines of like, oh, I think she, might be a bit of a narcissist or whatever. Okay, fast forward weeks later, I've prepared a statement of observations as to why I'm no longer interested in dating this person. And, I read it out, and, he says, that's so interesting because I've heard that all before from the ex. Not so well, articulated point after point. But, yeah, they ended up getting back together. So there you go. Was she a narcissist, or was he just not self-reflective? And she had valid points, clearly. They got back together, so yeah, hopefully they're going well, good on them. So that's like a real life example of miscommunication and overuse of the word. And, of course at the time I said, what does that look like? What do you mean? And, I'm just dancing with the flags here. Yeah, I don't think, the explanation did not match the word. So that's why I thought, okay, maybe that's just another classic misuse of the word. So the word actually comes from Narcissus, the Greek god from Thespian. And there's a couple of different versions, but basically the long and short of it is that he is unlucky in love generally because he is just a bit of a D-bag, you could say. Bit, self-obsessed. And then he is gazing into the water. His parents are, gods of water and nymphs and stuff like that. But he gazes into his reflection. He gets lost in his own reflection. He falls in love with his own reflection. Some say it's his dead twin. But he either falls into it or drowns in the pool of water, and then his blood or being becomes the daffodil flower. So that's really cute. So I guess from the original Greek mythology, it's just about the dangers of vanity and the dangers of being self-obsessed. So the word narcissism or narcissist may just mean self-obsessed. So let's see what the dictionary says. Merriam-Webster. No, this is actually just from Google, but it's a noun. And it's a person who has an excessive interest in or admiration of themselves. So narcissists think that the world revolves around them. Okay, so that's a pretty standard word. Doesn't say anything about triangulation and gaslighting. So are we, using it in the wrong way? Yeah, maybe. I think why people are perhaps using it in the to indicate bigger things than just an unhealthy love of their own face, is coming from narcissistic personality disorder. Okay, so that is completely different. But before I get into that, I'm going to put some rollers in and we will discuss the big 5-factor personality model. So I think this is where we're getting confused because like the big 5-factor personality model is a better kind of understanding of like your personality. Forget the Myers-Briggs, that is statistically invalid. I am a campaigner, but you know, it's just a bit of fun, just like a horoscope kind of thing, really. But so one of the big 5 is neuroticism. Narcissism, neuroticism. 2 different things. So neuroticism is a personality trait characterized by sadness, moodiness, and emotional instability. Individuals who are high in neuroticism tend to experience mood swings, anxiety, irritability, and sadness. We've kind of gone through that. Those low in this trait tend to be more stable and emotionally resilient. So it's just coming from the word neurotic, neuroses. So maybe that's where the words are getting conflated. So the word neuroses is very old. It was kind of something that they used before other things like depression and anxiety were, you know, better used to describe a mental condition that is not caused by organic disease involving stress, but not a radical loss of touch with reality. So it's like you're crazy, but you're not proper crazy. So yeah, it seems like there's some overlap there. And I guess that's kind of pretty common, to be fair. Like they say that the public perception of psychological findings is at least 20 years behind actual research. So we've got neuroses and narcissus, or, you know, the Greek god, neurotic, whatever. So conflating them two into a TikTok video about how you're not responsible for your relationships, you know, it's a bit problematic. So maybe they're talking about NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, which is a really interesting one because most people that have it wouldn't like self-identify or relate to it or acknowledge it. Maybe it's you know, personality disorders are something around like, you know, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, were you born this way, or was it nature versus nurture, like that kind of thing? Usually it's from, you know, very extreme long-term patterns of child abuse, even just, you know, emotional, which is actually far more damaging long-term. So let's, you know, look it up. Let's look it up. What is it? What does Google say? What's the diagnostic criteria? So, NPD is a disorder in which a person has an inflated sense of self-importance. Found more commonly in men. Nature versus nurture. Blah, blah, blah. Admiration, disregard for others' feelings, inability to handle any criticism, and a sense of entitlement. And to be honest with you, like, it's one that seems to be diagnosed comorbidly with other personality disorders like antisocial, what have you. Yeah. So they're saying that there's like different types: overt, covert, communal, antagonistic, and malignant. But that's kind of more how it presents. And I guess my understanding is that, you know, that kind of neuroticism, and that narcissistic streak, it all, you know, most personality disorders, they come back to a deep wounds, of not being loved, not being good enough, and then, you know, that kind of comes out in our behaviors and our interactions with others. Could you have NPD and not be abusing your partner? I'd say, like, potentially, you could just be really difficult to live with and communicate with. And I think that's why we need to get better with our words and find better ways to describe people and call out abuse when it's abuse, because kind of using these, you know, trendy words is not really doing us a big favor. Like, selfish is a great word. Let me think of some more. I guess an important word to continue to use as a Queenslander is simply "see you next Tuesday." I mean, everyone loves that word. It suits, it fits, why not? Anyway, let's stop joking about it, because it's actually super serious and it really kind of gets in the way of people's like life and relationships. I think, you know, when we're going through the like actual, you know, definition of the diagnosis, which is just like a layman's understanding, you have to actually go into the DSM to find out more. But I personally have met many people diagnosed with this condition in my time in prisons, but I actually have only been in adult male population, so I can't really talk to other ones. But what is really obvious, or kind of a leading symptomology, would be the out of touch sense of grandiosity or superiority or what have you. Like they actually are plagued with thoughts that they are the center of the universe, and maybe it's like concurrent with other things like you know, schizo whatever type of diagnoses. But it's actually like to the point of a delusional sense of importance. Like they don't understand, like they're upset by, you know, someone not treating them like the king or queen of Osiris, I don't know, Mount Gambier, anything. The king and queen of the king of whatever. And I think that's, for me, that's like kind of the most obvious trait, and how it can be such a pervasive kind of difficult thing to treat is not difficult, but like less known about. The treatment options best with schemotherapy, for sure, forensic schemotherapy, I would recommend that to anyone really, but especially people in the forensic system. But yeah, like, it's almost like, say you were a child and your parent told you every day that you were worthless and you know, whatever unwell, unhelpful parents do to hurt their kids' psyche, to the point where, you know, you've never received a compliment or praise or whatever. The only way that your brain can deal with that constant pressure is to bloop, flip the switch, flip the script, and almost like this magical thinking of, no, they just don't know that I am God's gift to women, mankind. And it's kind of like, if only I'd had this chance, if only this had happened, I'd be a millionaire, I'd be a CEO, I'd be, you know, I wouldn't be in prison, or I wouldn't be in therapy, or, you know, it's always like an external thing. And that's just a way that the brain can cope with such horrific childhood experiences. So yeah, I think that's a good kind of way to explain it, perhaps. I hope that's given some understanding, and let's actually look at some, you know, toxic news stories about it and see what we think. Look, I've gone a bit crazy with the colours. Let's see how that goes. But just after a little bit of Googling and some, you know, light research, there is a Huffington Post article from 2013 that is like, is my ex a sociopath or narcissist? And then every single article, like for the next page or two, I mean, who goes to the second page anyway? But like, it's all just the same things parroted from that article, even citing that article. Who wrote that article? A woman named Cindy, who is a prolific storyteller and author. So, no hun, no authority on the matter. And the things are like, oh, they're attractive, they're gregarious, they're good in bed, they're, you know, all these things that are so common. And yeah, so I can understand how the Gen Pop would be confused. They give intense eye contact. Whoa! They lie. They blame others. They don't pay attention, but they're also extremely charismatic and charming. Big egos. I mean, who doesn't? They move fast. That could be a lot of things. That could just be a, you know, love addiction or some kind of other issue. ADHD. Who knows? Anyway, then let's talk about now this is real news. This is from the National Library of Medicine, and this is from, where's the year? Who knows? But it's looking at the prevalence, so how common is it, and the comorbidity of NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. So the lifetime prevalence, so like having it for your life, is 6.2% of the population, which is actually a pretty big number. But for men, it's 7.7, and for women, it's 4.8%. So more men than women. significantly more prevalent within certain minorities in America specifically. And that would probably track with like the early childhood trauma thing, but it's also, interestingly, high occurrences of substance use, mood, anxiety, and other personality disorders. So usually they have, you know, more than one thing going on for them. And dysthymia is significantly and negatively associated with MPD. So what that means is that there is a negative association. So it means a decrease. So dysthymia is major depressive episode. So like not just like depression, but like you're, you know, needing specialist treatment throughout the lifetime. It's not easily cured per se. So you're less likely to have major depressive, what they call dysthymia, and NPD at the same time. And that kind of makes sense, right? Like if you think you're God's gift, then you probably aren't going to be, struggling to get out of bed all the time. So I hope that's like given some insight. Cindy Holbrook. Cindy, what are you doing? I love that like one article from 2013 is still like rinse and repeat in 2023. So let's actually talk about what it could be more, and the language that we need to be using. Talking and doing things, it's all too much. First of all, swear words, great option. Okay, if you want to be a little bit more eloquent, you could say, they didn't treat me right, or they didn't treat me the way that I wanted to be treated, or we had problems relating to one another, or he or she was unable to meet my needs despite trying. We decided that we aren't the right fit for each other. That's a good one. Because, you know, that's what it is. Like, no one's perfect, you know. All relationships are going to have trouble in some way or another. What you need to be looking for is whose flaws are compatible with your flaws. Like, you want to love some of their flaws, really, and vice versa. Like, I could be super chatty and someone else may be attracted to that and find that as a positive and not as a negative, you know. So we don't need a label to move on. It's completely okay to just say, it's not working, I don't enjoy it, I want to be treated differently, I want a different life, I just don't like them anymore. How about that? Just say that, you know. It's like we need like an excuse or a reason to leave, and you don't. Like, relationships are consensual. Every day, every single day, every minute of every day is a choice to be with someone. And I think if we look at it like that, we may actually leave unhealthy relationships before they get to a breaking point or an unsafe level. So let's like expand our vocabulary. vocabulary. And yeah, maybe not demonize people, because narcissism, not so bad. Look at the mirror, bit selfish, bit self-obsessed. Narcissistic personality disorder, really troubling. Like, sad. It's sad. That's the thing. Like, when I meet people, and these are people who are, you know, obviously what you'd call, you know, unsuccessful in some attempts to control the narrative because they've been caught for something to end up behind bars. But, you know, you could say, like, honestly, I just breaks my heart, because it's not like some hottie at the bar who's like, yo, look at me, like, I'm so put together. No, that's not what it looks like. It's really sad. It's obvious. It's very obvious. Maybe just to me, but, you know, learn something new. If you don't want to use a difficult to understand diagnostic criteria, a simple no thank you is sufficient. So try that and see how it goes. You know, free yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. So, peace. Let me tell you about a story about a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of mine. So, let's call her Jane. Mary Jane. So, she was like in a relationship for a couple of years, really happy, was planning to settle down, get married. They were like saving for a house, and kind of out of the blue, she's like, he just like disappeared. He's left me, and we had this fight, and he was like, you're a horrible person. My psychologist says that you are a narcissist. And she's like in a small town, so she's kind of down the local on the weekend, and his mate's like, oh, what happened to Bob? And Mary Jane's like, I don't know, he's just like disappeared on me, he's just run off, he's just ghosted me, whatever you say. And they're like, oh yeah, you guys, you've had it rough for a while, you've really put in your effort, but I can just tell you're not a good match. Like, it seems like you guys fight all the time. And then Mary Jane's like, really? I've literally, we've never had a fight. It just absolutely came out of nowhere. And then she comes in and she's like, Alice, am I a narcissist? And I'm like, hun, you are like an aged care, worker. Like, how on earth? Like, no, you care a lot. You care a lot about other people. You are not selfish. You're doing God's work. Like, and then, plot twist, turns out he's like embezzling their savings into a gambling addiction. So, and did his psychologist say she was, or did he just make that up to mislead her? Like, is he a narcissist? I don't know. He lied. He just covered his tracks. He mistold things. And, like, I guess in the moment, Mary Jane's trying to look back and, like, look for clues and, like, what did I miss? And, you know, she'd be like, oh, what do you want for tea tonight? And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, Mexican? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, we can get something else if you want. And he's like, nah, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. We'll get that. And then what? He's running to the mates on the weekend and saying, she made me get Mexican. Like, are you just not communicating your needs and then blaming the other person? You know, that was an issue for them. Good little story. I don't know, but I thought it was just really a great kind of insight into just being blindsided, I guess, or an inappropriate use of it, or using it to like belittle or control someone else. So maybe that's a good indicator, actually. If you feel sorry for someone, you probably shouldn't date them, because not only could it be a red flag, you need to date your intellectual and emotional equal, because that's how we grow. So if you're in an unbalanced relationship, you're stagnant, you're dragging up someone, you know. I met a woman at the dog park, and she had a lot to say about her ex that she couldn't get rid of for 3 years, but turns out it wasn't like deprivation of liberty or what have you. It was actually just the fact that she was lonely during COVID and didn't want him to leave. But yeah, she was like, he's a narcissist and a psychopath. And because she was like, oh, what are you doing at the dog park? What do you do for work? Blah, blah, blah. Don't tell people what you do for work. That's the first mistake. Anyways, whatevs. Yeah, turns out she felt sorry for him from the day go, like word go, because of all of his childhood trauma. Like that's, you know, that's a sign, surely. So we're almost finished. I mean, I'm probably just going to the dog park with my mate, my best mate, who is lonely in COVID. No, look, she could be there. Who knows? It's a Sunday, so yeah, I'm just like gonna be working from home. Let's see. Whoa, who is she? I don't know if putting the curl through the slot in the thing is a good idea. Alright, so my outfit, it's just a t-shirt dress from Gundawindi Cotton, organic cotton from Gundawindi. Strongly recommend. So that's it. This is the final look for a Sunday, and probably wear these shoes if I go out at all. Got a lot of work to do. Very busy. So another hot tip: dish soap, warm water, jar, chuck your brushes straight in there, and Bob's your uncle.